I was away on a business trip, FaceTiming my husband every night. Same routine, same smile. But one night, as he walked away from the screen, I spotted something on my side of the bed. A pink phone. Not mine. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, ended the call, and booked the next flight home. I didn't tell him. I used a spare key, walked in, music upstairs. Louder. I started recording before I even touched the stairs. And when I opened the bedroom door, I was halfway across the country buried in tech panels and cocktail mixers. But every night, no matter how late it got, I FaceTimed Chris. It was our little ritual, something grounding in the chaos. I'd call from my hotel room, makeup barely wiped off, heels kicked aside, hoping just to hear his voice and feel like home wasn't so far away. He'd answer, usually shirtless, sprawled across the bed, laughing like he hadn't a care in the world. And I'd smile, even when something in me started to feel off. That Wednesday night, the call started like the others. We joked, talked about a deal I closed, and then he said he was heading to the kitchen for snacks. He tilted the phone down as he stood up. And that's when I saw it, a pink phone, sitting right there on my side of the bed. Not just any phone, one with a sparkly case, one that didn't belong to me. And suddenly, the laughter in his voice felt like something sharp, not soft. I didn't say a word, not a single question. I just kept smiling through the call like everything was fine. My voice didn't shake, my hands didn't twitch, but my heart, it was sprinting. The second we hung up, I pulled out my laptop, booked a flight home for the next morning, and texted Chris saying the conference got extended. He'd never expect me back so soon. And that's exactly how I needed it to be. That night, I barely slept. I kept picturing that phone, how casually it sat there, like it had every right to exist in my space, in our space. I replayed the call over and over in my head, dissecting every glance, every pause, every too easy smile. And underneath it all, a strange calm started to rise, not rage, not panic, something colder, something steady. Like the part of me that once would have begged for answers had finally packed her own bags and left the building. By morning, I was on a plane home, middle seat, sunglasses on, and not a single notification going to Chris. I didn't want questions. I wanted clarity. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. To stand in my own house and take back control of a story someone else thought they could write without me. I rented a car at the airport, parked it 2 blocks away from our house, and walked the rest of the way with my heart pounding but my hands still. I stood outside for a beat, spare key in hand, breathing in the air, like I was about to step into someone else's life. Because in a way I was. Mine had shifted, maybe forever. And the woman unlocking that door wasn't the same one who'd kissed him goodbye at the airport just days earlier. I slipped in silently, like a guest in my own home, and it didn't take long before I heard its soft music, footsteps upstairs, and the sound that sealed it. Laughter. A woman's laugh. I pressed record on my phone. Fingers steady, breath low. Every creak of the staircase felt louder than it should have, like the house was warning them, or maybe warning me. But I didn't stop. I climbed one step at a time, drawn forward by the sound of them, the giggles, the muffled whispers, the faint thump of careless bodies moving in a space I used to call safe. My bedroom door was closed, but light leaked through the crack, and the music. It was one of my playlists. The audacity. I stood there for just a second, phone aimed straight ahead, and then, I pushed the door open. Hard. And there they were. Chris and her. Tangled in my sheets. Laughing like this was all some joke. For a beat, no one said a word. Her eyes went wide. He froze mid-smile, like a child caught in the middle of a lie too big to take back. And me. I smiled. But not the kind of smile they were used to. No. This one was quieter. Measured. The kind of smile that comes just before the storm breaks. Not loud, but unmistakable. And if they scrambled to pull covers, to come up with something clever, they didn't realize the story they thought they were writing. I'd just taken the pen back. The moment my smile landed in that room, the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't rage that filled the space. It was discomfort. Their discomfort. I stood in the doorway, perfectly still, while the woman, barely covered, gasped and pulled the sheets tighter. Chris stammered something useless. Some half-baked explanation that even he couldn't believe. But I wasn't there for apologies. I was there for clarity. For that exact moment, captured in full HD where everything fake peeled away, I stepped into the room like it belonged to me. Because it did. My heels tapped the hardwood like punctuation marks. And I looked at her. Really look at blonde, smudged mascara, the kind of woman who probably thought she was in on a secret. Poor thing. She had no idea she was just a chapter in someone else's unraveling. I tilted my head, voice calm, and asked her, enjoying the bed I bought. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Not that it mattered. Then I turned to him. Chris, still sitting there like a deer in headlights, barely able to meet my gaze. You always said I was the dramatic one. I said, my voice smooth, almost amused. You haven't seen dramatic yet. And that's when I held up my phone, the one still recording, catching every beat of this performance. Smile, I told him. Your parents always said you were their perfect boy. They'll love this. Sex, fudged like I'd slapped him. But I didn't even raise my voice. That was the beauty of it. I didn't need to. Silence, when wielded right, cuts deeper than any scream ever could. The mistress, let's just call her what she was, scrambled to gather her things. I watched her fumble for her bra like it might save her dignity, so I helped her along. I picked up her purse, the tacky, overpriced one sitting on my vanity, and tossed it at her feet. Get dressed, I said, Vef, before I send this video to your husband too. And that's when the panic set in. Real panic. The kind that makes people clumsy and forget how zippers work. Chris tried to say something. I think he even reached for me. But I stepped back, one hand still steady with the phone. He looked ridiculous. Half naked, ashamed, and suddenly aware of everything he was about to lose. But not once did I shake. Not once did I back down. That calm I carried into the house. It hadn't gone anywhere. They dressed in silence, their eyes avoiding mine like that would somehow erase what had just happened. I didn't rush them. I wanted every second of their shame documented, and they knew it. Every glance at my phone was a reminder that this moment wasn't just theirs to hide anymore. I was holding the story now, and I knew exactly who needed to see it next. When they finally left, her avoiding eye contact, him mumbling a pathetic, "I'm sorry." On his way out, I stood there in the stillness of my bedroom. Our bedroom. Except now, it felt like a stage that had just hosted the last scene of a play I never agreed to be part of. I closed the door gently, walked over to the edge of the bed, and stopped the recording. My hands didn't tremble. I wasn't crying. There was just this strange, settled quiet in my chest, like a storm had passed, but left me standing. I took a deep breath and sat at my desk. The same one where I used to write birthday cards for his parents, where I'd planned our last anniversary dinner. I opened the video on my phone, trimmed it just enough to keep the best parts, no screaming, no chaos, just truth. Cold, undeniable, carefully delivered. Then, I opened my messages, found his parents' contact, and attached the clip. I didn't add any drama. Just a simple note, thought. You'd want to know what your son's been doing while I was representing our family name. And then, with one quiet tap, I hit send. The moment the message was sent, I set the phone down like it weighed nothing. I knew it carried the force of 1,000 conversations I'd never have to repeat. I didn't wait for a reply. That wasn't the point. I hadn't done it for drama. I'd done it for clarity. For closure. For that quiet satisfaction of truth delivered with precision. Let his parents see the version of their perfect boy I'd been carrying in silence for far too long. I stood up and looked around the room. Everything felt familiar and foreign at once. The scent of her perfume still lingered in the air, a sweet, cloying reminder of betrayal. I opened a window. Let the wind take it. There was no space for her here. Not anymore. Not in this house. Not in my life. I stripped the bed, threw the sheets into a garbage bag, and tossed them into the bin, like yesterday's trash, which, fittingly, they were. And just when I thought the night had offered all it could, my phone buzzed. His mother. Not a text. A call. I didn't answer. But I watched it ring twice, before it stopped. Then came the message of, "I'm so sorry, Amanda. We had no idea. We're ashamed of him. We'll speak with him directly." There it was. Validation I didn't ask for. But strangely appreciated. I let the phone fall silent again. And for the first time in days, I let myself breathe a little deeper. The next morning I changed the locks. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. I didn't want him walking back in, pretending to cry, pretending to fix what he so carelessly shattered. The locksmith didn't ask questions. He was in and out in under 30 minutes. And by the third he left, I stood in my own foyer, alone, holding a set of keys that suddenly felt like freedom. It was a quiet kind of liberation, the kind that doesn't announce itself, but lingers in the chest like a promise. Chris tried calling. 6 times. Then came the texts, "I made a mistake. Let's talk. You didn't have to involve my parents." That one made me laugh. Not bitterly. Just with a calm disbelief. As if this was still about image, as if his discomfort mattered more than my betrayal. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Every word he sent was just another reminder that he still didn't get it. And probably never would. By noon he was at the door. I watched him from the upstairs window, pacing, knocking, holding something in his hand like it could buy back what he lost. Maybe it was flowers. Maybe it was nothing. Either way, I didn't care. I didn't move. I let him knock until the silence answered for me. Eventually, he left. That was the thing about Chris. He was only persistent when someone was watching. Later that evening I found myself scrolling through old photos. The kind that used to mean something: beach trips, Christmas mornings, blurry selfies in the kitchen at midnight. They all felt like artifacts from a life I'd outgrown. Not because the memories weren't real, but because I finally saw them through a different lens. So many smiles, so many almosts, and behind most of them, me trying him, pretending. That night, I lit a candle in the living room. Not for romance. Not for ambience. For peace. I wrapped myself in my favorite robe, poured a glass of wine, and sat with the quiet, no voices, no lies, just the soft crackle of the wick and the knowledge that for the first time in a long time, everything around me was mine again. Untouched. Unshared. And when my phone buzzed it, I didn't even check it. I just let it ring. Whatever it was, it could wait. Because something inside me had shifted. The woman who used to chase closure. She wasn't here anymore. The woman sitting in that candlelight had found something better, her voice, her spine, and her line in the sand. And tomorrow. Tomorrow would be for starting over. The days that followed weren't loud. They were eerily quiet. No fights. No long-winded apologies. I even signed up for a painting class, and on the first day, standing in front of a blank canvas, I almost laughed. Because for the first time, the emptiness didn't scare me. It thrilled me. It meant possibility. It meant I get to choose what comes next. And that kind of freedom. It's intoxicating. Then came the trip, a solo ticket to Europe, Rome first. I booked it without asking anyone's opinion, packed light, and boarded that plane with nothing but a journal and a heart wide open. The first night, I found myself on a quiet terrace overlooking the city. A glass of red wine in hand. The air was warm. The sky soft and orange. I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo, and texted my best friend back home these. He thought he broke me, but he only made space for the woman I was meant to become. I sat on that terrace for hours, watching strangers pass below. Each one with a story, a secret, a second chance of their own. There was something comforting in that, in the realization that we're all just piecing it together. Rewriting ourselves in small, quiet ways. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't weighed down by what had been taken from me. I was lifted by what I'd reclaimed, by who I'd become, without needing to be anyone's wife, anyone's second thought, anyone's proof of loyalty. The days in Europe blurred beautifully, mornings with espresso and sketchbooks, afternoons wandering sun-soaked alleys, tasting freedom on every forkful of pasta. And nights. Those were mine, spent journaling, reflecting, dreaming again. Not just about what was next, but who I wanted to be in the quiet in between. Not Amanda the betrayed. Amanda, the author of her own aftermath. And that version of me, she was radiant. I didn't return home with souvenirs. I returned with a sense of self I hadn't felt in years. And though I knew life would still offer its bruises, I also knew this: I had already survived a heartbreak meant to break me. And I built something beautiful from the wreckage. Because sometimes, rock bottom isn't the end. It's the foundation. And from mine, I rose.